First is our online crime mapping. On Friday, May 13th this year, we launched our new and improved online crime mapping webpage for public use. The webpage features a direct feed of crime data that is immediately placed into a map in an effort to keep the public well informed about recent crime activity throughout the city. You see an example of our crime mapping here. In our first 3 days of operation, the crime mapping received over 13,000 hits. Good indication that the public is interested in crime in their neighborhoods and that we're able to produce it. You can access our crime mapping on the department's website, www.lapdonline.org, and I want to thank the Police Foundation for their generous donation, which allowed us to create this web feature. Thank you. The next thing I want to bring up is a subject that's near and dear to my heart, and that's our summer safety program. This year, we're going to have 32 Summer Night Light parks, and in order to kick off that program, a program which has kept this city safer for the last several years by making our parks accessible and productive places for young people to be during the summer hours, we're going to have our second annual summer tip-off. It's a basketball game between my best team, LAPD's best team, and the fire department's best team. Last year, the fire department's best team came out second best, and this year I plan to have the same outcome. For those of you that are interested in geriatric sports, Chief Peaks and I play a small portion of the game, but it is primarily done by young, strong athletes from both entities. We're particularly happy this time because we're going to play at the Galen Center, a great facility being sponsored to us by USC. The game's going to occur on June 25th. It is free for everybody. I encourage anybody from Los Angeles, anybody from any place, especially young people, to come, participate, see some of the exhibits that we have that talk about summer safety, get fed for free by some of our generous donors, and enjoy a great basketball game between two great departments that have many, many fine players. You know, on the same vein, athletics within police and fire agencies. You know, next week is our Western States Games. It's in Ontario. You'll also be able to see police officers and firefighters compete in almost every sport in the different venues there. And you can go to our website and find out more about that if you're interested. You know, a couple of other things I'd like to bring up before I open it up for questions. You know, the summer is a tough time for us. Particularly this time, because the Los Angeles Police Department has undergone some extreme staffing shortages due to our lack of compensatory or lack of overtime and our time off due to compensatory overtime, and also due to our lack of hiring over the last couple of months. So it's going to be very important that people take their own safety seriously. You know, our Lock It and Don't Leave It, Lock It campaign, where you make sure that you don't leave valuables in your cars. You know, home security, your ability to keep your home secure by keeping your doors locked and being involved in neighborhood watch. All this is very important this summer. You know, it is my goal to continue the crime numbers that I'm about to talk to you about and keep this city safe, but I can only do it with your help. So that brings us to the crime numbers. So far this year, despite all indicators of the contrary, despite the economy, despite unemployment, despite reduced staffing levels, the Los Angeles Police Department has been able to work with this community to reduce crime all over the city. Homicide is down almost 8.5% as compared to last year, which, if you'll remember, was our best year in over 4 decades. Every form of violent crime is also down, total of almost 10%. All levels of property crime are down, totaling almost 10%. Total aggregate Part 1 crime in the city, down 10%. Really good numbers, but it's important to recognize that these gains are fragile. You know, we are coming up on our high crime season, and it's not going to just be about police officers. It's going to be about the public, and they're working with the police in keeping themselves safe. I'm also proud to announce that gang crime is also down throughout the city, almost 20%, and gang homicides are down even more than the regular gang homicides and regular homicides. So with that, ending on that good note, you know, I'll take questions.
Chief, why did the LAPD feel it was necessary to conduct its own lie detector exam, polygraph exam, if he didn't already pass the defense test?
Common method of operation for us. You know, if the defense is going to have a polygraph test, and then we generally schedule our own. It was pre-scheduled. It was not scheduled after as a result of the defense polygraph. It was always intended to take place. Nobody should take that as any indicator of anything other than the fact that if the defense is going to pay for an expert, then I'm going to use one of my experts to do the same thing.
Chief, you mentioned last week when someone asked the question, do you have more than just the eyewitness accounts? And your one-word answer was absolutely. Can you go any further than that?
You know, Dave, I would love to tell you everything I know about this case, but I just cannot. You know, and I understand the defense's need to put forward the information that they have in order to make their the best case for their client. That's the defense's job. But you got to remember my job. My job is not to prepare a case for the media. My job is not to prepare a case to present on the steps here at the police building. My job is to present a case and prepare a case for use in court.
Sounds like a man who's extremely confident.
Well, you know, I don't arrest people lightly. You know, I have very specific legal considerations that have to be met before we make an arrest and we detain somebody. Those have been more than met in this case. You know, we will present a case for prosecution, and we will do that at a time when it is most advantageous to that prosecution.
Are you any closer to that?
Present a case and having charged this?
I'm sorry.
Are you any closer to filing than you were the last time we talked about this, when you received that much more somber demeanor to this case than you did at the time of the arrest?
Well, you know, every day you're closer, because we will present a filing, and it will not be in the distant future. It'll be in the near future. But there are, because of the nature of the defense and their desire to put things forward in the media, then we have to address those features before we go to the district attorney, and we will do that.
Is that what the polygraph was, addressing that?
Well, would
you have done that without them doing their own?
Well, we would have done that at their request. If they'd, you have to understand, these happen many different ways. The defense does not always do their own. Sometimes they just request that we do one. And so many times we'll do one absent a defense exam. Defense exams are fairly expensive. Many defendants do not have the wherewithal to do that. So, you know, every case is different. If this has been a straight up request, we may have done one anyway.
Did any of the results change your opinion of the case?
No.
The polygraph exam?
No.
Chief, from my understanding, you're right, that the defense claims of an alibi are slowing down, or not slowing down, but they're requiring you to check those out. And absent those, you might have already...
Well, absolutely. You know, the defense claims of alibi have added to our witness list of individuals that we have requested access to from the defense so that we can interview them. You know, we want to make sure that we have all information that is available before we present a case. So, and because this case happens to have the luxury of time on its side, vis-a-vis the parole hold, there's no harm in doing that.
Absent those claims of an alibi, do you think you would have presented to the DA already?
Well, you know, that's speculation, but it would have speeded it up.
Chief,
I just want to confirm.
Claudia, go ahead.
I just want to confirm, you still consider him the primary suspect?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and are you confident enough that you have the right guy, that you guys are no longer looking for, you know, a guy with a mole on his left cheek?
You know, Claudia, that will never happen. You know, as long as people bring information to the Los Angeles Police Department, we will look at that information. I never, ever exclude all options. You know, so while I am confident, if the public brings me through the tip line, through the detectives, as a result of the still remaining $250,000 reward offer, more information, I will look at that information.
And what's going on with the search for the other two women?
That is progressing.
Chief, being the head of detectives at one time, I mean, you know how the system works. I know, plain hypothetical, if you can indulge us, let's assume that, though he wasn't picked out by anyone at the lineup, that he did pass the polygraph. Does that change anything based on what you know now?
That's a hypothetical that I'm not going to address for a bunch of reasons.
How important is it for you to maintain the intensity in this investigation, to accumulate more evidence than what you have now, not just for this suspect, for an outstanding suspect?
Well, you know, this is an important case. Not only because all of you think it's important, but because the people of Los Angeles think it's important. This is an attack on the sanctity of one of our great institutions, which is the Dodgers, and the ability of this region to enjoy the national pastime in a family atmosphere that all of us desire to participate in. So it's very important on two fronts, and I've said this to you before, and I'll say it again. This case is not occurring in a vacuum. This case is also occurring in the presence of an increased deployment of uniformed police officers at Dodger games, and I every day get comments from people that go to the games and tell me how safe they feel. I get them in writing, I get them verbally, I get them on the street, and we want to not only bring this suspect to justice, all of these suspects, but we want to change that venue. We want to change people's perceptions of that venue so that this city can once again enjoy a baseball team that all of us believe we can participate in by going to the game.
Chief, it's a pretty sizable reward in this case. Does it surprise you that nobody has turned out for this reward, or anybody qualified to get the reward?
Well, John, of course that's not true. We have over 700 clues that have come in as a result of that reward. Now, the fact that none of them have precipitated the payment of that reward, that's another issue. But people certainly have come forward. There's certainly been a lot of interest in this case because the reward, because the billboards, because the outreach, because of you, the media. So just because it hasn't worked out or has not worked out yet, I don't think we can draw a conclusion from that.
How important is the second suspect?
I'm sorry, John, I couldn't hear
How
you.
important is the second suspect?
Everybody involved in this is important. We don't want to leave any aspects of the investigation unaddressed.
Chief, on a different topic.
There's a different topic, Eric?
Yeah. Other stuff
I like you. Thank you.
Could you talk at all about the discussions about consolidating the homicide squads in West Bureau and shutting down Hollywood Homicide and moving people around?
Well, yeah, I will talk about that a little bit. That's exactly what we did in South Bureau. Matter of fact, when I was the chief of South Bureau, that's what I did. That doesn't mean it works everywhere, but it can work in some areas, especially in areas that are seeing hugely decreased homicide levels and have the ability to have some economy of scale by consolidation. So West Bureau, I know, as a fact, is looking at that in order to do those two things. Now, everybody has to realize, I am not a magician. I cannot continue to run the exact same Los Angeles Police Department and pull 700 to 1,000 officers out of the field, many of whom are homicide detectives because of compensatory overtime. I can't do that. I have to figure out how to make us more efficient. Just like the fire department had to change their model of staffing, I may have to change mine, especially if negotiations with the union break down. So, we always are looking at different ways to do things, and some of those things are affected by the economy, some are affected by other pieces, but always, we examine, is this the best way to do things given the current state of the Los Angeles Police Department? And so right now, for this moment in time, it may be best to consolidate that homicide function. Now, people shouldn't take that as my belief that all homicide functions should be consolidated, because I do not believe that. I don't think it would work in the Valley. The Valley is too geographically spread out for that. So, you have to look at the problem. You have to look at the dynamics of the organization dealing with the problem, and then you have to address it that way.
How are those negotiations going?
I'm not part of the negotiations, Frank. I am an extremely interested spectator in the negotiations.
Chief, getting back to the subject that everyone's talking about, if he didn't have a parole hold on him, and the clock was ticking, would you feel confident right now to go to the DA and say, this is what we got, charge him?
Well, we would certainly have to, yes.
And back on a different topic, is it, do you feel it's ever appropriate for a member of the command staff to get involved in an arrest of a personal friend? You probably know what I'm talking about, but I won't mention a specific incident.
Well, ever is a big word, so it may be.
Chief, I have another topic too. How concerned are you, and what are the plans for LAPD for the eventual release of prisoners from California prisons?
Well, first, certainly we have to see exactly what the Supreme Court mandate is going to force on the state. There are many variables that have yet to be yet to be developed. You know, the county's ability to receive prisoners, the state's willingness to release them, which ones would be released. I mean, this is a problem with dozens of pieces that are in motion. So are we concerned? Yes. Are we involved? Yes. Are we trying to figure out what the best tact for the Los Angeles Police Department to take to work with the, probation, to work with parole, to work with the sheriffs who will be the majority recipient of these individuals if they're released? We're absolutely doing that. But there are just a lot of things that have to be decided in their various silos before I can give you our response. All I will tell you, what I can tell you though, is that we are actively involved in figuring this all out.
Have you talked to Henderson, Nevada, or have they contacted you about the Ramirez case?
John, I don't think we're being public about that. Obviously, it's been in the media. We have been all over the state of Nevada relative to this case. Henderson has a case that potentially involves Ramirez. It's more appropriate for them to speak about the viability of their case. We've been asking them about that. There have been discussions, but I really don't know how good their case is and if they're really interested in Mr. Ramirez.
Chief, can you talk about
you to get this case behind you? It's going to take a lot of time. At some point, some might ask, is this out of proportion?
Well, while I am anxious to move on, I am more anxious to capture the other two individuals involved and anybody that's been aiding and abetting in the meantime. This is what I do for a living. This is my passion. Bringing justice to the Stowe family, bringing justice to this city that it was so damaged by this activity at one of our valued venues of sporting is very important to me. So while I personally may some days tire of it, professionally I never tire of it. This is what we do. This is what the city expects from me. This is what the city expects from Los Angeles Police Department. This is what they'll get.
Chief, can you comment in any way about the weapon that Ramirez had when he was apprehended?
Dave, I would love to comment on a lot of these things. A lot of this is really inappropriate for me to discuss with pending court litigation. We have to go through a parole hearing. For me to try the parole violations in the media prior to going to that parole hearing is inappropriate. We have to go to court for me to talk about the outcomes of polygraph that are not admissible in court in front of a jury pool, which is what you're doing right now, is inappropriate. I understand your interest, and believe me, I don't hold that against anybody. As you all know, I know you all have your jobs to do, and I know you respect that I have mine to do. So, there are many things I would love to tell you about this case personally, but professionally I cannot.
His attorney.
An update on the investigation involving Todd who shot his uncle's arms down at Booker.
Yeah, Frank. That a tragic case. I think that oftentimes, to go to Dave, to go to the other point, we get consumed with media cases, cases that attract attention of the media and the public. But you have to realize that gang crime goes on every day in Los Angeles. Last night I had 4 gang shootings, 1 gang homicide. I had, if I'm counting right in my head, I had 6 different individuals shot due to gang violence in Los Angeles. This 2-year-old died as an unintended victim of a gang shooting. That is the crime story in Los Angeles. Not just. I do not know the number. I know that Central Bureau is adequately staffed for that. I talked to the D3 Detective Bates today. He's happy with their progress. Believe me, they will not suffer a lack of resources.
Chief, if
One
Ramirez
more
is your
question.
guy, then why, then the 2 people who he's supposed to have been with that night, why haven't they been captured? How close are you to capturing them if he is the guy that you're looking for? I think that if you're all together, we'd have at least whereabouts by now. We'd be much closer.
You would think that?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I don't see the connection particularly, but we are actively working on the other 2. There has been Mr. Ramirez didn't turn himself in. He is not a cooperative arrestee. Why you think that we would be any closer to the other two, given those two things, I don't know.
Chief, the defense said they'd be shocked. Yesterday, his exact words were, "I'll be shocked if my client is charged in this crime." Your reaction?
Well, he's a good defense attorney, and I've never heard a defense attorney say it the opposite way of that.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.